Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority.
7:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, and Mary Catherine Ham here, and we're talking to Stuart Varney, our buddy from the Fox Business Network. How's it going, Stuart? Is he there? Hello?
I'm here.
There he is.
Hey, Stuart.
Yeah, good morning, all.
How's it going?
I'm well. How about you?
Good. I want to ask you about this. This has actually huge election repercussions as well, but in a Wall Street Journal NBC News poll released, the number of people who believe the country is headed in the right direction economically has swung up 8 percentage points from a month ago. Are they right?
That's a good question. Look, there is some improvement in the economy. Yes, we're growing at about a 2% rate.
Right.
If you call that a solid recovery, I'll vehemently disagree with you. But it is better than the 1.5% rate we were in last summer. And by the way, that poll showed that 30% of respondents say the economy is headed in the right direction.
Not an overwhelming number.
Exactly. That kind of underwhelming. Okay, it's up 8 points from December, but 30% is still a very low number. And at this stage of the so-called recovery, you know, we should really be bounding ahead 3, 4, 5, even 6 percentage points of growth. We're nowhere near that, and we won't get anywhere near that if we follow the policies laid down by the President in that State of the Union address.
Now, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, threw some water on the fact that the economy is getting better. Or at least he said that it's a weak recovery.
Yeah. Well, look, he painted a pretty bleak picture yesterday afternoon. He says you're going to have the jobless rate will stay well above 8% for the rest of this year, and it won't get down to the 7% range until 2014. No strong recovery, he says. It stays weak for another 3 years. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a bleak picture indeed. What it means is that he's going to keep interest rates around zero for another 3 years. That is absolutely unprecedented, and it's a sign of how weak the economy really is.
But the markets sort of like that information, that they could count on low interest rates for the foreseeable future, and they rallied a little bit yesterday, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, you had a 200-point turnaround for the Dow, and the price of gold is back above $1,700 an ounce this morning. Well, why is that? I'll tell you why. It's because a weak economy means Ben Bernanke may be printing a lot more money, and if he prints more money, some of it will find its way to the stock market, so the market goes up.
All right, there's a company called Apple that most Americans love and are very proud of having here in this country. I think that, the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, is universally revered. But apparently they may be in some problems because of new taxes on Apple. Can you explain that for us?
Well, the President, in his State of the Union address, wanted a new tax on companies with foreign operations. He wants to tax their foreign profits.
Right.
Well, Apple falls right in line. They have 700,000 workers in China making the iPad, making the iPhone, and 43,000 workers in the United States designing it and marketing the things. Mm-hmm. Now, that puts Apple right in the crosshairs of the President, because they are a foreign manufacturer making foreign profits, and they keep those foreign profits overseas, so they don't have to pay the 35% tax if they bring them back to America. The President wants to tax the preeminent technology company in the world. Doesn't seem to make much sense, but if you're in Washington and you're trawling for votes, you take the anti-Chinese position, anti-multinational position, and you tax them. It maybe makes good politics, but it's lousy economics.
Well, there's a reason why they produce what was it say on the back of the iPhones and iPads? It said like designed in California, manufactured in China.
Yes.
There's a reason why they manufacture in China is because, well, the costs are cheaper. And they make a ton of money on it. Perhaps they make too much money, maybe from this administration's point of view.
Quick story. 6 weeks before the iPhone appears, Steve Jobs decides he needs to have a glass screen. Mm-hmm. 6 weeks to go before they put it on the market. That night, the Chinese factories in Shenzhen, China, they wake up 8,000 workers in the middle of the night. They've been sleeping in dormitories. They wake them up. They give them a cup of tea and a couple of biscuits. They're on the assembly line within 30 minutes. And within, I think, about a week, they were turning out 1 million iPhones with a glass screen per week. You can't match that. You can't beat that. But that's what they did to present us with the phones and the iPads that we all love and buy.
I've always thought it's interesting how liberals just have no issue with that because it's Apple.
Yeah. Apple is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, what do you think about this big kerfuffle over Warren Buffett's secretary and how much money she makes?
Forbes says that the secretary, I've forgotten her name actually, but it's Debbie...
Debbie something.
Yeah, right, unpronounceable.
Uh-huh.
But she makes between $200,000 and $500,000 a year. That's in salary.
Mm-hmm.
So she makes more money in salary than does Warren Buffett. He pays himself $100,000 a year. So, of course, she pays more money in taxes because it is her salary that's taxed at a maximum rate of 35%, and it's Warren Buffett's $100,000 a year that is taxed at 35%. So, inevitably, of course, the secretary pays more in tax than does Warren Buffett.
I would just also like to point out that if she does make over $250,000 a year, like Forbes suggests she does, then President Obama and Democrats actually want her to pay more in taxes.
Precisely. There's a gross confusion here between income from investments and income from wages and salaries.
Okay, here's what I hear from Democrats. You tell me if this is true or not. That, okay, fine, Mitt Romney, he's making money off of his investments and his capital gains. But, a lot of his money that, he got was from stock options or whatever. So if a company gives you stock, you're not really paying that 35% that you would if you were just making money for working for a company. Is that true? Is there any validity to that?
If you are granted a stock option by your employer, when you cash in that stock option at a profit, I think you pay ordinary income tax on that profit, not the capital gains tax rate.
Okay.
That's, I think, look, I'm not an accountant, I'm certainly not a very good accountant, but I think that's the case. Cash in a stock option, pay ordinary income tax rates.
Stuart, the president says, of course, this is not written down anywhere. The Buffett rule is not in legislation. It's not in the budget. But he says he wants anybody who makes over $1 million to pay at least 30%. The reason, and he well knows it, that people are not is because they're paying cap gains. Because it's 15%, it's less, and they set up their situation so they can do that. How, then, do you require millionaires to pay 30% without jacking up capital gains to 30%? Or is that just what he wants to do?
That was left unspoken. We don't know. Does the president really want to increase the capital gains tax rate to 30%? Does he? If he does, then you're going to get a whole lot less investment. You tax it more, and you get less of it. Right. I can't believe that he really wants to jack up capital gains tax rates to 30%. But I'm going to turn that around for a second. How do you get this economy to grow by taxing millionaires more? Do you get more growth for the economy? Do we return to prosperity by taxing millionaires more? I think not. I didn't hear anything in that State of the Union message which encourages growth in the American economy. All I heard was punish the rich, punish the oil companies, punish overseas employers, punish. You don't get growth like that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. It wasn't about growth. It was about being able to pay for government programs.
Right.
Yeah, which go, we're not going to do anything about runaway spending on government programs.
All right, Stuart. Good to have you on as always.